When Calgary's J.C. Anderson invested in his first horse some 40 years ago, he never could have imagined the reach and influence his family would have on the sport.
Not only was J.C. very successful in business, but Barbara also was certainly a very, very sharp, devoted businesswoman as well. And I would say between them, they brought those principles to bear, fair and square. Put the best people together, get the best team you can get, and then, yes, manage the team, but step back and let them do what they do best.
Barbara and J.C. would raise 4 children on what would be known as Anderson Ranch. John, Brian, Susan, and Sandra would all ride, and almost unbelievably, they would all compete for Canada.
Unusual to have 4 siblings that all had extra talent to ride, and to varying degrees, and they all, as you know, competed internationally for Canada. They were known as the A-Team.
These were 4 fabulous, talented riders with the great support of their parents and the opportunity that was afforded to them. They were hard workers, and all 4 of them had very, very significant international successes.
John was the oldest and the first to ride for Team Canada. He would have tremendous results, including an 8th at the World Championships in 1986 and a member of the 1988 Olympic team in Seoul.
John was a very good rider. John was very, very competitive, and he worked. I had him for a couple of times on the team, and there was nobody that was more competitive and stronger than he was.
John would be in the top handful of ring riders in Canada. I mean, you cannot get a better guy once he steps in that in-gate to ride at the international level, and whether it's going for speed or a Nations Cup or whatever. He's just a tremendous competitive rider.
Brian Anderson would follow in his older brother's footsteps.
Brian's a quiet guy. Brian keeps very much to himself. Doesn't say much, has a very subdued ego, doesn't need anyone there telling him how great he is, or really, you know, he was happy with the little support staff that we had. He and I got along great. A very cool competitor, very, very cool under pressure, very calm. Brian went to the World Cup finals. I think he was 19, 18 maybe still, can't remember, young, qualifying to go to the World Cup finals.
In the early 90s, it was the youngest 2, Susan and Sandra, who would ride for Canada. Susan at the 1990 World Equestrian Games in Stockholm, and 1 year later, Sandra would win Team Silver at the 1991 Pan Am Games in Havana.
They both rode with a lot of feel and a lot of empathy with the horse, and they both had really good successes.
Susan and Sandra are completely different as competitors, both of them fully capable of winning something. Susan was always much the steady one, rock solid, easy going, very well paced, you know, very competitive, but that was her nature. Sandra was always energetic, plugged, coming to the ring, ready to go, a little excited, a little, you know, if anything, whoa, you know, we can calm this down a little bit. And don't misunderstand me, both of them capable of winning on any given day, just 2 different characters completely.
While the 4 kids took tremendous advantage of the opportunities provided by their parents, their mother Barbara was pushing for a national competition that would help kids improve all their horse skills. In 1988, the CET medal was born.
She had an interest in the broader aspects of the sport, and that was one of the motivations for the CET medal.
Endless hours and contribution that she has put towards this. It's not showing up for sort of us, those of us who are just the winners over the past or many years. It's about all those kids that are trying, and you've never seen the kind of effort that these guys put into their preparation, their gearing up. I know only a select few are allowed to go to the finals, but the gear up and the prep for these regional finals is just unbelievable. And for me, whenever you're asking anyone to dig deep and put their best on the line, I think that that's what they learn from this class.
It teaches you really how to actually ride properly and not just get to the jump sort of thing. It teaches you how to ride between the jumps, which is pretty important, I think.
I was fortunate enough after winning the CET finals to go and get a working student position riding for one of the top equitation trainers in the world in North America. And I went on to compete in all the US medal finals, and I was 8th at USET finals last year, so that was definitely a huge accomplishment for me. I went on to get a riding scholarship at Auburn University, and a lot of what they looked at was my past accomplishments, so that was really good to have on my resume.
Barbara's brainchild has provided the country with an important national grassroots competition, something the family ranch had facilitated regionally since its inception. In the past 5 years, John has expanded on his parents' vision to create Rocky Mountain show jumping, which can only push and promote the sport to new and greater heights.
It's a typical of the Anderson family, though, that they've always achieved at high levels and they aspire to high levels, and I think this is just a carry-on of the same thing. This is how John thinks. He was an international rider at a young age. He's going to set a high standard, and he's done so with the facility.
You can see that there's various levels of show jumping that are developing, and every facility, I think, is really welcome to improve the sport.
For almost 40 years, the Anderson family and their iconic ranch have been a beacon for the sport throughout Western Canada.
Your contributions as a family to the sport in Calgary, in the West, and in Canada has been truly remarkable. We're very lucky you're Canadians, and we're very, very grateful to all of you. Thank you for all you've done.
Both of the Anderson parents were very keen for the sport. They understood the pursuit of greatness, of trying to achieve wonderful things. They had business-wise, and that was the way their mind worked, was to try, even though, okay, our kids are young, we know they're capable, we know they're talented, we're willing to get behind them, and they did understand the idea about young people doing great things at young ages.